caring. And indeed, Kathleen, this was one of the most dangerous housing projects in the city. But tomorrow, a range of people, from Deputy U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder to boxer Mike Tyson, are expected to come here to help them celebrate 2 years without a murder. It is a result of people who care coming together to try to make a difference. After 12-year-old Darryl Hall was kidnapped and murdered in a dispute between warring gangs, a group called the Alliance of Concerned Men came here to negotiate a truce.
But it gotten to the point that we felt that we had to do something, that we had to not sit and wait for a solution to come about, but go up and try to make a transition and talk to the young brother.
The truce has held, but it's been more than inspiration, also perspiration. D.C. Housing made jobs available to former gang members.
It seemed to me that that was probably our last best hope for doing something dramatic and significant out there.
Give jobs.
Yeah, not give jobs, but provide jobs, to make opportunities open.
And at first they just thinking, you know what I'm saying, we had never amount to nothing. Now we giving back to the community.
And with former gang rivals now working together, no longer is the mentality to shoot your problem.
Hit them, got them good. It's done over with.
And of course, that was one of the statements that they said they would make out here. But right now, it's a place where kids can play. And I told these kids if they behaved, I would put them on TV. Tomorrow, in addition to the whole
neighborhood is celebrating 2 years without violence.
And people there are doing it by taking to the streets. News 4's Megan McGrath has a live report now. Good morning to you, Megan.
Good morning. For years, Benning Terrace was ground zero for a very violent gang war between the Circle and the Avenue crews. You perhaps remember the story a couple of years ago about 12-year-old Darryl Hall. The young man was walking to school. He was abducted by gang members and then killed. That sort of brought the whole situation to a head. And a group called the Alliance of Concerned Men got involved, and they brokered a peace deal, a ceasefire between the two gangs. And a lot has changed in this community over the years. And they're going to be celebrating that ceasefire today with a rally and a march here in the neighborhood. Now, joining me is someone from the Alliance of Concerned Men, Tyrone Parker. Now, you helped broker this ceasefire. Tell me what the community was like before, when the gangs were fighting, what it's like now.
At one point, this community was in a situation that was not functioning. It was a situation where it was basically being held in fear. It was being held in fear by the youth of this community. A kid had been killed that just mentioned, 12-year-old Darryl Hall was killed on the way to school. And this basically sparked, and the whole community began to take a second look as to what occurred. And at this point, the Alliance of Concerned Men entered into this situation. And we came up here and began to talk to these kids. That was not a thing that we were trying to condemn them or tell them what to do. We came asking, what could we do? How can we be of assistance to you all to help find out what's occurring?
And you sat these young men down and you got them to hammer out their differences and bring an end to the gunfire.
That was basically how it was did. But it was did more so of a thing of love and understanding and through prayers. We wrapped our arms around these kids and said, let's talk about it. Let's understand what's occurring. And then they began to see that they were more alike than they were apart. And since then, 2 years ago, we have not one kid to be killed up here in 2 years. And this is the greater blessing, where you have a community that is no longer in fear, a community that can now function, a community that can begin to empower itself to take its rightful place in the Washington, D.C. area.
Now, but life in that southeast community has changed dramatically in the past 2 years, thanks to a ceasefire between two rival gangs. Today is the second anniversary of the truce. Megan McGrath was there for today's celebration.
Hugs and smiles in a neighborhood once gripped by fear, ripped apart by a gang war between the Circle and Avenue crews. But 2 years ago, the gang sat down and negotiated a ceasefire. On the second anniversary, the truce is still in place, and Benning Terrace has made big strides in its fight against crime. This morning, former crew members and residents marched in celebration. How bad did it get?
I mean, real bad. When kids get out of school, it was drive-bys and all that stuff. Now we changed all that and made it turn to a 360, and it's different, man.
It was the murder of 12-year-old Darryl Hall that brought the situation to a head. The community was outraged. That's when the Alliance of Concerned Men persuaded the gangs to lay down their guns and talk.
It was the push that was needed.
People sitting down listening to what we had to say, you know what I'm saying, helping us work our differences out instead of looking at us as ruthless outlaws.
The Alliance got together with the housing department and found jobs for the former crew members. And residents say neighborhood pride was given a boost and the killing stopped. There have been no murders in Benning Terrace since the ceasefire was brokered. Before the truce, this community saw between 6 and 8 murders a year. Police who walk this beat say the change is dramatic.
A lot of the individuals that we used to chase through these neighborhoods are now very productive, working individuals, working with the housing authority.
Today, an area once plagued by gang violence just a year ago, a march and rally celebrating 2 years without one single person being killed on the city streets of that area.
The march began at the First Rock Baptist Church and moved symbolically through the neighborhood known as Simple City, through streets that for years were filled with gang violence and death.
God, we thank you that the violence has left the community.
But this day, young people, former gang members, and community leaders alike came together to pray and celebrate success.
We now stand here today as a victory celebration as a community. This is not a funeral, this is not a mourning today. I thank God for that. That at one time had differences with each other. But now today come together as a whole to show y'all that we don't have to fight, we don't have to kill, we don't have to condemn each other. We can reach out and love one another and march on from there.
Down in Listen, they made a commitment. It was like a merge. You understand? They still here. 2 years passed, they still here, helping the young bucks in the community.
The Alliance of Concerned Men emphasizes the march and anniversary rally here today is only a beginning. They believe they've found an anti-violence formula that truly works.
This is not a funeral, this is not a mourning today. I thank God for that.
A man who lost his own son to violence rallied residents in celebration of a 2-year truce in what had been one of the deadliest zones of the nation's capital. There have been no killings here in the Benning Terrace neighborhood for 2 years, and young people bowed their heads in prayer to keep the peace.
It changed dramatically. It went from a war zone to a place. It went from war zone to Valley Hills.
You got to worry about killing or the parents can walk the street safe, kids can walk the street safe.
What did your life used to be?
Stay out all night, sleep all day.
They marched from church to church to celebrate the dramatic.
Just hung around, wasn't doing nothing. Wasn't doing nothing with my life. Now I'm working at school.
And working to try to be a good father to his 2 young sons.
There's another visible sign of change in this neighborhood.
Let's hope the Alliance can keep up the trend nationwide.
You have brought light to this community.
These young people say they now have a reason to live. In Washington, Jan Smith, Fox 5 News.
Family that will show the world that we can and we will make a difference.
And what a difference Tyrone Parker of the Alliance of Concerned Men has made in Benning Terrace. 2 years ago, this area was torn apart after the murder of 12-year-old Darryl Hall. Parker and his group negotiated a peace agreement between 2 rival gangs bent on retaliation, and it has stuck.
I'm getting involved back more in the community. I got me a job. I'm back in school. But before the Alliance came in, there wasn't no school, there wasn't no job, there wasn't no hope for the future.
Former members of both gangs marched down G Street together. Homicides are down. In 1996, before the truce, there were 8. In 1997, after the truce, there was 1. Last year, there weren't any. Aggravated assaults in 1996, 48. In 1997, 43. And in 1998, 27. Index crime, which is the total for crimes such as homicide, as well as theft, burglaries, etc., are down too. Just look at the numbers.